Goi baba tiswiko pano.
Ya shika zenyu tikakubatsire nechi.
Baba taweyo pano zotsvaga ukama tuda kurorawo pano.
Oh, moda kulora pano leti. Kana moda kulora pano tinoda $5,000 na ng'ombe makumi matatu pasina izozo yenda zwako shamwali.
And basically when we're talking about Lobola, I'm going to stand on 2 points. It's necessary and sometimes not necessary, but it's based on the mentality of the men. Because we have a class of men that say, I'm buying the woman when they're paying Lobola, so she has to do everything I ask. And then there are other women who say it's an appreciation to the relatives or to the parents of the wife in terms of bringing a good wife to them. And then the other one is actually a class of men that says they're appreciating the relatives for accepting them to be part of the family. So in terms of Lobola being necessary, I would say it's very necessary because it's appreciated.
It's not a need at all. In my own convictions and everything, I think it's no longer necessary, because what it simply does is we are taking away those equality rights, non-discriminatory rights that we have given to women. Women nowadays are now equal to men. So by paying Lobola and everything, I think we'll be subjecting the women. They become inferior again to men, because looking at just like socially, we hear men saying, ndakakubvisira mari, ndakakutenga iwe, I paid my monies, ndakabvisa mombe dzangu and everything. It's because of those things, because they are paying something. So I think Lobola can only be a choice, and it's no longer necessary in my own feelings. But then we should not forget also the cultural part and the cultural implications and the social implications of Lobola payment. Even looking at that past, when I was discussing about the patriarchal society thing, we also see that even then, these things, and everything, and those things, they also had a bearing on Lobola payment. For example, when a man pays Lobola, there is this part that is called Mumbe Umai. Whether you're a pastor, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a professor and everything, you have to pay that, because wakasabisa Mumbe Umai, she must spiritual connotations and everything, because it's our culture. So on to that end, I also have a feeling that Lobola, even though it might not be necessary when considering the laws and considering the movements of gender equity, gender equality as a whole, and also at global and international level, obviously, but we don't have to divorce ourselves from the culture, because honestly these things, they have my implications and everything because of Mumbeze Umai. So I think, in my own view, I think it's no longer necessary though, because we are taking back the society, and at the same time for us to have a balance between the cultural part, the social part on one hand, and then the legal part. I think it has to be left as an option to an individual, whether you decide to pay Lobola or you don't decide to pay Lobola, because as the law stands, Lobola is no longer a requirement for validating a marriage.
I think that Lobola is not necessary, and it does commodify women. Because if we look at how Lobola started, it started because men felt that women, their women children, girls' children, were not as important as the boy children. So they decided that to make them important, they had to get something from their prospective husband so that they can cover up for taking care of them since they were kids. So I believe that men feel that they own women because they paid Lobola. Of which to men paying Lobola is like they think that they are buying women. So by doing that, it also facilitates for abuse, because the man tells you that you cannot tell him what to do because he bought you, of which that's not the case. So I think that Lobola is a cultural practice that is not important, and that does not have any place in our modern society. So I believe that if it is possible, it should just be scratched off.
Mariana chacho na baba wakumei, andikwa nise, oro zako na gatuma.
In terms of Lobola being paid for women, I believe we are a people and every child is born. Now my argument in terms of people who say Lobola is not significant to pay for a woman, I would say, let's take for instance, anything that you put on, no matter you want it, you go and buy it. You can't just have something for nothing. However, in another instance, you will realize that whatsoever you do not pay for, you don't value it. So I believe that people are supposed to pay Lobola, appreciating the parents from which they are going to take their wife from. In another way, placing value on what they are saying they want. If you believe that your wife is beautiful, she is going to be the mother of your children and the queen of your heart, I believe and I strongly believe that you need to be in a position that you need to have an attachment, something that you let go to say that I love my women. So Lobola should be paid up.
I believe if everything that you are really interested in, you have to pay for it. Let's say you've bought something very expensive, you're always going to protect that commodity that you'd have bought. So I believe men are always manipulative. By the way, I'm a feminist, and I believe that most men, they've got this tendency of looking down upon their women. So Lobola, it's a cultural thing, even in the Bible is there. So it means if you're going to enjoy the fruits of my being a woman for you, you have to pay for it.
We now have the gender equality movements, the gender equity movements, and I think, in my own view, that Lobola payment will commodify women. They are still, because we have to look at the history of Lobola. What was the reason why Lobola was being paid to the in-laws by the husband? It was because during those days we were living in patriarchal societies where women were seen as very subjective to men, where women were subjected to abuses, where they were seen as nothing, like contributing nothing to the society. That's why at least a man was supposed to pay Lobola as a way of appreciating.
Andikwanise oro zvako nevakapfuma